I am Native American. Whites are Native Americans. What are you talking about?
You're not.
What are you talking about? Whites are Native Americans.
Really?
I think
what was happening before the 1500s?
I think you're getting confused with it.
I don't mind going on a tangent, but what was happening before the 1500s?
Calm down. I think you're getting...
What was happening before the 1500s?
There was indigenous people here that came here from Asia.
Do you know what indigenous means?
Listen, before
indigenous people can't come from somewhere else.
Why do you ask a question if you're going to interrupt?
I'm not sure if you know what the meaning of indigenous means.
I do know what it means. It means they came here first, right?
If you break into my house, should I just accept you because you washed my dishes and made my beds? I say no. I say you need to go back and come back in the right way.
So is that what the Indians should have told white Americans?
Absolutely. Ask Cochise if border control is important.
Because the original illegal alien are European white folk in America.
Agreed.
And so should the Indians stand up today and say deport all white folks back to Europe?
Well, should we learn something from their mistake? Because we are here now.
Or should you learn something from their compassion to give other people an opportunity like was given to you and your ancestors? Learn from their compassion. That's what you should learn from.
I say learn from their mistakes. Ask Geronimo if taking care of your borders is important. We need to do that now.
And I agree with Cochise, Geronimo, and Sitting Bull. Letting in the white man was the worst mistake that the Indians ever could have made. I agree with you. That was one of the greatest mistakes. Even right there in South Africa, they got a similar problem.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about an interview that a black man was reminding white people that they're illegal in America. And what this episode is teaching me, rather, is showing me, is that white people do not like to be reminded that they're illegal. Some of them, of course, are delusional enough. They think that they are the natives in America. Right. And with that being said, guys, I think right now most Americans, white Americans, are legal to America because after Columbus and when they colonized America, they came up with laws that favored white settlement. And thanks to Columbus's visit, that is when the population of white people increased in America. Right. And at the same time, they tend to forget that they are their ancestors rather were settlers, not settlers but immigrants in America, and they don't forget to remind other groups of people like black people and people of color that they are immigrants. So with that being said, let's take a look at this video and then we come back and talk about it. You can also let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section. Remember also to subscribe if it's your first time here. Road to 200,000 subscribers, right? Let's get into it.
We are a country of immigrants. See,
no, we're not. No.
This video is solely to spread awareness on the United States and the expression nation of immigrants.
We're a country of settlers, not of immigrants.
Okay. Please watch the full video to understand the concept of country of immigrants, because it seems Americans seem to forget.
That's a big distinction. Let me tell you the difference. Settlers are people that build a new country that was barren. Immigrants come to a country already built.
We are, one and all, immigrants, or the sons and daughters.
We are the descendants of 40 million people who left other countries to make a new opportunity for themselves and their children.
The lamp of this grand old lady is brighter today, and the golden door that she guards gleams more brilliantly in the light of an increased liberty for the people from all countries.
I'm convinced that the vast majority of Americans today want these people to have another opportunity.
I was in a party that welcomes generations of immigrants.
If we ever closed the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost.
Immigration is not just a link to America's past. It's also a bridge to America's future.
This is one country. We like our diversity. We are proud of it.
Amid all the complications of policy, may we never forget that immigration is a blessing and a strength.
These people, our neighbors, our classmates, our friends, they did not come here in search of a free ride or an easy life. They came to work.
We don't demonize immigrants. We don't single them out for attacks. We don't believe they're poisoning the blood of the country. We're a nation of immigrants, and that's why we're so damn strong.
I think this is a fantastic law. It is time to start enforcing the laws that are on the books instead of the state and local officials legislating from their own little tiny offices.
It's an awful law because it's nothing more than a legal way for law enforcement to racially profile Mexicans and Hispanics. I would say to the Hispanic and Mexican community, what you got to do now, hook up with the black community and unite in political power, because if Mexicans and black people unite in Texas, we can control the governor, we can control the lieutenant governor, and we can control politics in Texas, period. I'm saying to the Latino brothers and sisters, don't fight them by yourself. If you hook up with black people and we unite, I'm telling you, we can run Texas and then pass laws to deal with those who hate us.
You're advocating for criminal activity, Cornell. These people are not here lawfully. They need to do what our ancestors did, what many Mexicans have done.
Well, no, wait a minute.
Many, don't interrupt me.
Your ancestors came here illegally. Wasn't nothing legal about your ancestors. They came illegally and they murdered, they raped, they pillaged a whole race of people. This country, Texas, Arizona, and California, belongs to the Mexicans.
Juanel, get back
it was
to the
stole from them.
You
so
tell
when
me
you
to get back to the
ancestors,
point.
they came here illegally.
You're not being fair to me here. You say stay on topic. I say, okay, we'll stay on topic. And then as soon as we start talking about illegal immigration, you go back to the black issue. Let's stay on topic.
Your ancestors are the master illegal immigrants.
Give me the opportunity to respond in that, you know what? We're all Americans here. And if you are here legally, absolutely, then we need to come together and we need to pass good laws for enforcing the laws.
Well, perhaps the Native Americans should have passed laws against your ancestors.
Can we normalize calling Americans European Americans? I'm recruiting everybody in the world. Everybody who is not American, let's call them European Americans. Black Americans, get in on this. European Americans. And if you white, call yourself European American. Because there's no way we out here calling African Americans. That don't make no goddamn sense. If there's African Americans, then there's European Americans. Because I don't know how we keep forgetting, particularly European Americans, that the original Americans are Indians, not even Indians, incorrectly called Indians, Native Americans. The originals, it's in the name, Native Americans. So the real Americans should be the Native Americans. Then we have the colonizers, aka the European Americans. Then we have African Americans. If we have to use African Americans, then we shall use European Americans.
We were all once strangers. If you weren't a stranger, your grandparents were strangers. Your great-grandparents were strangers. They didn't all have their papers ready. They fumbled with language, faced discrimination, had cultural norms that didn't fit. At some point, somewhere, your family was an outsider. And so the mothers, the fathers, the children we see today, they're us. And we can't forsake them. So as Americans and Canadians, we will continue to welcome refugees. And we can ensure that we're doing so in a way that maintains our security.
Dear Americans, you are not expats here in Europe. You are immigrants. Yeah, when you leave the America to come to live in our countries, for example, in my home country, Portugal, and you come here to brag how cheap it is, you should all come here, when in fact it's not cheap for Portuguese people. You are not an expat. You are not a digital nomad. You are an immigrant, just like Mexican people in your country. The difference is Mexican people actually learn your language, for example. While you are here, you live, for example, in Portugal or in Spain for like 3 years and you barely know how to say thank you in our languages. Also, Mexican people in your country have jobs that actually contribute for the country they are currently living in. So in your country, United States. While you, no, because you still work to your own country. So yeah, start respecting immigrants in your country because you also are an immigrant in our countries.
What's fact is that black people in the United States don't have the caucasity to define crime for everybody else while excluding themselves. What's fact is that European Americans have committed a vastly disproportionate amount of crime against humanity in the United States. European Americans have unalived and SA'd people of the global majority by the millions. European Americans have destroyed communities created by people of the global majority in the United States by the thousands. And until that truth is acknowledged and reconciled, there will be no excuses.
When did Irish people become white in America?
Go for it, John. When did the Irish become white? And how long have you been white, John?
As a recently visibly white guy, it's a complicated history. W.E.B. Du Bois made a famous statement about the condition of blacks in America in 1890, early 1920s, and indicated they were the poorest in all of America, except for the Irish immigrants, who were the poorest. Mm-hmm. And they were called Black Irish, and were despised by all the other immigrants who had already come in there, except the blacks at the time. And the Irish were able to scrape by on the generosity of the black people. Once their economic condition surpassed that, they no longer used that phrase and became white.
There have been numerous instances of groups becoming white in the United States. Mm-hmm. The Italians, right. Jews, Eastern Europeans as well. But there's been a hard barrier for black people, and this is what I think gets to anti-blackness specifically as a barrier that people can't cross. Black people don't get to become white in the United States, but lots of other people will get to become white, or white presenting, to use the old South African terminology, honorary white, even if you're not actually white, except for black people.
I remember a debate between James Baldwin and William Barclay in London. Because Barclay's argument was, okay, you blacks, if you just do what other people had done, you will be thriving economically and politically speaking. And Baldwin says, okay, well, actually, that is possible if we manage to change the color of our skin. Because of the color of our skin, you don't let us vote. You don't let us live in the neighborhood where we wanted to live, etc., etc. Yep. So this is a way to say that, of course, passing is possible for a certain number of groups, but it is not something that is available to the majority of black people in the United States. And that is the case still today.
If you haven't heard the term European American, you gotta watch this video. In some of my recent posts, I've been seeing this comment of like European American to describe like Americans that are European descent, like for example, similar to Mexican American, Asian American, African American, right? European American. Why don't people that are American of European descent call themselves European American? It's interesting, right? I don't know if I agree or not, but it just makes you think like it should be that way if it's fair. I guess it's just interesting that we feel the need to differentiate minorities, right? So for example, when Italians came over, like, oh, they're Italian American. When the Irish came over, oh, they're Irish American. Now, once they've been here for a few generations, they've been assimilated into society, they just become Americans. But also they're white. So it's a totally different dynamic. People that are of color go through a completely different experience. And I think in today's world, that's what these words are used for. They're used to say like, oh, no, they're not American, they're Mexican American. It's like, oh, no, they're African American. Because the reality is that the only true Americans are the Native Americans. They were the OGs, the people that were here before everybody else. And then Europeans came and conquered. So it's just something to think about. What do you guys think?
I just had a thought. How come people who do not come from this turtle island are called something American? Like, I'm Native American. Someone who is a person of color is African American. Or someone from Mexico is Mexican American. And someone from Canada is Canadian American. I don't know. Or like someone from Asia, Asian American, Chinese American. But what about the YT people? Why aren't they called the Euro-Americans? Why aren't they called the Euro-Americans? Why are they just called Americans? Why do they call themselves just Americans? I am indigenous. I am Nehewa. I'm not American. I'm Nehewa. I'm Anishinaabe, and my people were here before millennia, before colonization.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about the videos we just showed you. Yeah, you know, as I said in the beginning, right, I feel like a lot of generation of white people have lived in America and they've created laws that favored them to a point where they forgot that they too were once immigrants. Yeah, there's a video of Barack Obama where he was speaking, and other presidents previous presidents of America who are talking about how everybody in America were once strangers. Yeah, if anything, the only people who could lay claim to being the original settlers in America or being the true people of America, that would be the Native Americans. Yeah, but of which the Native Americans were never white, right? Most of them were brown, some melanated. Yeah, and you see the delusion that is really going in the white community, where even in today's society, there are white people who now are starting to call themselves the true natives of America. And I'm asking myself, are you ready to be schooled? Because if there's a white person who's laying claim to being the true native of America, then what happens to the original natives in America who were forcibly forced out of their lands in order for the white people to lay claim for in the best parts of America? What happens to those type of people that now you want to rewrite history and you want to spread the word and make everybody believe that American and a true American is someone who looks white and not any other type of person? Right, and the saddest part is that to the largest extent, white supremacy is the one that controls the education system in America and what our students get to be taught, right? Yeah. And in this same breath, I feel like they're slowly but successfully erasing the history of Black Americans and Native Americans to such a point where if you come to Africa or any other part of the world right now and you ask a small kid who they think can lay the rightful claim to America, most of them will be forgiven for thinking that white people are the true owners of America. Right. And this is because history has been distorted too much and there is no representation of these smaller groups in the educational system. And white people, this has been a trend that has been going on for way too long, where white people will move to other countries and they will make us believe that they are experts coming to our own countries, and they are not, to a point where we as natives in our own lands, for example here in Africa, will forget that they are immigrants in our country and we'll start referring to them as experts who know things this, that and the other. While in the same breath, these very same white people, when they see Black people and people of color migrate to predominantly white places, like for example some places in Europe and some places in America, they call these Black people immigrants. So this is such a double standard way of thinking, but it's so unfortunate that their system of making people learn or educating people is working. Right. And I just find it funny how they choose to define words. Yeah. For example, one word that you said, when people move to spaces where it's considered their home, white people's home, those people are called immigrants, right? But when white people move to other countries where they make us call immigrants, they have fancy words or fancy names for themselves, like for example expats. Here in Africa, or settlers. Here in Africa, they're not called immigrants, they're called expats, you know, and they have their own neighborhoods where expatriates lives, you know. And right now, Maren, before you continue, if you actually ask an African, for example, let's take Kenya because that's where we're from, right? If you ask a Kenyan who immigrants are, they will define it as maybe Africans from other countries that is not Kenya, and Black people from outside of Africa. But not once will you hear them include Germans to that list. Not once will you hear them include white people to that list, white people from anywhere. Because in Africa, you're meant to believe that they're not immigrants. So when you don't call them immigrants often, they don't come up from the, in the immigrants list when people will mention immigrants. But when you mention who are settlers in Africa or who are experts in Africa, people will start by mentioning white people. Right. And then there's another video from our compilation where a guy was telling, they were having a debate, and the guy said they were immigrants, and then the other one told him they're not immigrants, they are settlers. So, okay, let's just sit down and define immigrants and also define settlers. And according to him, he said they are settlers because their ancestors went into America and when it was and built America. They went into America when it was still nothing, when it had nothing, and their ancestors are the ones who went in, built and made America what America is today. And that is why he's calling it settlers, not
of which
immigrants.
To some part, yes, I do give white people credit because they have built some things in America other than the ones they stole. They built some things in America, but wouldn't that also mean that the Black Americans and African Americans who were taken as slaves to America and helped build the country, right? Wouldn't it mean that they're also natives in America?
And he was defining immigrants as also as people who go into a country that has already been built, and they're going to seek for better lifestyle, or better living. And I ask again, this is like contradicting yourself. You know, if Americans, if the place they were going to was so bad, they would never, they only ever move to places when it benefits them, you know.
Right, and where they came from, they were running, okay, what we had here in Africa, white people who colonized Africa and white people who went to the Americas, they were running away from their countries because there were some sort of criminals, or they were at the bottom of the barrel of what society would consider, you know.
Yeah, or others were being banished as punishment.
Yes, as punishment. So when they settled in Americas or wherever else in the world, they're the ones who went to look for a better life and opportunity. Still, that shows that his statement in itself has contradicted himself, you know. So they also went to look for a better life in America. Their forefathers and their great-great-grandparents and their ancestors, you know. So this just shows how they really contradict themselves. And then also, there is also another thing that a man in an interview said that I found quite interesting, right? So he said that white America and white people in general, they should learn from the mistakes of black people, to which the black man who was with him in that interview corrected him and asked him, instead of learning from the mistakes of black people, because they call the compassion of black people a mistake, right? Native Americans. Even in South Africa, it is the same. Even the whole entire of Africa, for them to be colonized, they welcomed these white people thinking they were, you know.
Right.
So, so what he was saying is, instead of learning from the mistake of black Americans, or Native Americans, why can't you learn from their compassion instead? And this just opened my eye to something that I feel like everybody knows, but they don't really know how to term it, that white Americans, which we usually say, some of them operate from a malicious point of view, because he also repeated, we wouldn't want to learn from their compassion, because it is what got all of us here in the same at the same point, right? They want to learn from their mistakes, to me, so that they can learn how to colonize better and how to put black people down better. You see?
Yeah, but guys, I don't know what you think about this episode. We definitely like to hear from you. But this is definitely one of my best episodes, because just to get to see in real life
how
the reaction of a white
think.
person when they're called also immigrants,
Right.
And they never liked being called immigrants, So it was quite fun to watch that. It was quite enlightening, and also to the generation. I know it's quite unfortunate because there's a generation out there that really believes that white Americans are native to America, and that is not the case. So you're asking yourself, this distortion of history is really taking a number on some people, you know.
Right, and unfortunately, as history keeps getting distorted, it is becoming more and more believable to a bigger population of people who don't know the real history.
Right, but guys, let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. We'd like to hear from you. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and let's catch you on our next episode.